Before we get started, one more thing. If you want to get any PE gear, be sure to check out TotalManShop.com. That is TotalManShop.com. And use the promo code MHS2020. Promo code is MHS2020 and get 12% off. Be sure to check out their wide variety of all kinds of good quality PE equipment. All right? And that's promo code MHS2020 for 12% off. And the website, once again, is TotalManShop.com. What is going on, gentlemen? Welcome to another beautiful day, and welcome to another episode here at the Masculine Health Solutions podcast. And today, we are going to talk about a question that I got, and that question was none other than, what is the best device to get in regards to gaining length? Mainly an extender versus an all-day stretcher. Now, this one was an interesting question because it's something that I've always thought about as well. Like, why don't I just get an extender versus an all-day stretcher? What are the pros? What are the cons? And as I received the question about 3-4 days ago, and you asked me which brands I recommend, which I will get to as well. But what you got to ask yourself is, what are you going to be using these things for? Or more importantly, what's the environment that you will be using these devices for, right? Because the way I see it is, if you're going to be chilling at home and you want to gain length, and let's say you're not interested in hanging, right? And you're kind of more leaning towards using an extender, the appropriate amount of force, I would highly recommend that you go with the extender, right? The extender allows you it'll provide you more force than that all-day stretcher will. But what you got to understand too is that the all-day stretcher is a device, in my opinion, that's meant to be worn while you're out and about, right? The all-day stretcher is not something that you'd want to wear when you're just chilling at home. The all-day stretcher is more of, I'm at work, I'm doing my thing, I'm going around out and about, going to the grocery store, coming back, running all the errands I need to run. And I'm rocking an all-day stretcher while I'm doing these things, right? And that's the main difference that you got to keep in mind with the all-day stretcher versus the extender. The extender, on the other hand, like I've said before, it's quite cumbersome. And sometimes it's difficult to kind of go through your day-to-day with these two big old rods hanging down your pants, stretching your dick out. It's a little bit more difficult. And it'll make, just the basics of your day-to-day life probably a little bit more, a little bit more tedious, right? Like, I wouldn't want to go to the grocery store with my, extender on. And that's the one thing that you got to keep in mind. You will get more of a stretch from the extender, right? The all-day stretcher, however, will provide you that lower intensity stretch, but will still force you to grow. It's meant more than anything, in my opinion, when it comes to the all-day stretcher, it's more of an anti-turtling device. It's not going to provide you that heavy force that you would get from hanging, that real leg stretch that you're going to feel, and you're like, that suspensory ligament has been worked because I feel that stretch today. You're not really going to get that from an all-day stretcher. An all-day stretcher is going to keep you in that long, elongated state, right? Which is still something that we're after, and it's still relevant in creating gains, right? Regardless of what you use as an all-day stretcher. Versus the extender, once again, that we go back to, which will provide you more force, but is also a little bit more uncomfortable to wear. I myself, find that it is a little bit more uncomfortable. And depending on what kind of device you get, it can be a little bit more difficult to put on and take off and go about your day and go about your business. And that's where I give the edge to the all-day stretcher as well, if you're going for the all-day effect. Again, if you are working from home and you're kind of like, well, I want that heavier force, and I'm able to do it, and I'm able to wear this thing all day, and it doesn't really get in the way of my day-to-day life, and I can wear it for 6 to 8 hours straight, then by all means, the extender would probably be the best way to go. It really depends on your framework, your lifestyle, on what you plan on doing while using this thing simultaneously, right? Like, the whole purpose of these passive devices is for them to be, well, passive. It's not like actively hanging where you got to be, pretty much engaged. You can't do a whole lot if you're hanging all day. And if I was working from home, like Bib, if I was working from home, I would 100% just invest in getting yourself a state of the art hanger and wearing that for as much as possible throughout the day and really get that stretch. And I would combine it with an all day stretcher post workout or extender. It depends on what your plan is. But like I said, if you're going to be out and about, I'd go all day stretcher. If you're going to be chilling at home, you could get the extender. Right. So it really comes down to your lifestyle factors. So what I kind of created in my mind was more of a checklist that I would follow. And that checklist would be very simple. Are you working from home or are you doing some type of blue collar job, blue collar task? Right. If you're more active throughout the day in whatever job that it is that you do, then go all day stretcher. You're chilling at home and you're a little bit more stationary, go with the extender. Next up, do you run a lot of errands? Do you have kids? Does your wife, get in the way of things sometimes where she's grabbing on your cock? No, that's kind of irrelevant. I mean, as soon as she starts doing that, it's time to take it off and get to work. But do your kids if you do you have young kids? And the reason why I bring that up is because my kids are constantly wrestling with me. And if they were wrestling with me, and they're constantly, hitting me, doing whatever, it's again, the extender is going to get in the way of that because it's kind of like, well, I can't really move fluidly. Whereas, if you're rocking an ADS, that's, like a Phallosan Forte, a PeniMaster Pro, you can still go about your business. You can still wrestle. You can still do a little bit of light activity and it won't come off. You don't have to worry about it. It's a lot easier for the day to day. Right. So again, going back to your day-to-day task, your day-to-day lifestyle, what does it really involve? If you are a little bit more active, you're walking around quite a bit throughout the day, all these things are going to factor into the ADS. The other thing too, you got to think about is if you go to the washroom often, you got to take this thing off, put it back on, take this thing off, put it back on. And you should not sacrifice drinking water because you're like, oh man, then I got to take this thing off and then put it back on. Right. And that's a little bit, again, more cumbersome with the extenders. The ADS is easy. You can pop it on, pop it off, pop it on, pop it off, and go about your day, go about your business. Right. So that's the other thing to keep in mind. And ultimately, it just kind of pretty much comes down to your activity levels. What are you doing all day? If you're more stationary for the most part, more than 80%, then hey, go with the extender. If you want something that will allow you to walk around in peace and you don't have to worry about the thing falling off or about some heavy thing just kind of hanging out in your pants, well, then I would highly recommend you go with the all day stretcher. Right. And if you do have the time at home and you are looking to increase length, you got to ask yourself, why am I going for the extender versus hanging? Because you'll probably get more out of hanging, right? I get it. Everybody's different. And some people just want to go with the lighter approach as they start off, or maybe they're just doing a maintenance routine. That's understandable as well. And you just have to factor in what makes the most sense for you because nobody can tell you what's best for you. You know exactly what is best for you. And you got to basically tailor make your PE plan. Well, obviously you can get guidance as well, but you're going to know, okay, this is a little bit much or this, I just really don't like the feeling of being in an extender, or I really don't like the feeling of being in an all day stretcher. You got to basically do or figure out exactly what it is that what your preferences are. And if you can wear it comfortably, and basically what your goals are. If you're looking for that length, then yeah, you gotta, hit it hard. However, you got to use the best tools that are going to help you in the long run. If you're going for something that you think you can just, oh man, I'm almost done. Like when I was using my extender, guys, I tell you, man, at the end of it, it was painful. And I much, much, much prefer now to wear my ADS. So I guess I should dive into my personal situation and what I would do if I could go back in time and just redo it all over again. When I first, like I said before, I got the Vimax pills and obviously I got scammed pretty much. But the good part was I got the extender, and the extender, is, well, it was a very, very, very awful, awful design. However, I used it. I used it for the time being and it worked. Right. And it made me think about how how effective this methodology or this approach was. And it opened my eyes to the fact that, hey, if this really works, maybe I should go a little bit harder in my design and, well, basically my workout routine, right? And obviously I combined it with JP's 90-day program and all that stuff, like you guys already know. But obviously, man, when I got to the end of, like, let's say a second hour of using that extender, man, it was more comfortable to hang because that thing was painful. And it basically came with those silicone tubes that you see on the cheap extenders that I would highly not recommend for anybody. There's a whole bunch of cheap, I think Pro extender thing is one. And those cheap models, man, they're painful. They don't cause a lot of tension and they're big old pain in the ass. They are not worth the money they expect you to pay for them. If I were to go with an extender again, I would go with either the TotalManShop, like the one that sponsors this show. I'd go with the TotalManShop design. Why? Because he's got different models that you can choose from, right? The VAC model is excellent, far more comfortable. It's the same one that you see with the Phallosan Forte, which is also good. Same style you see with the PeniMaster Pro, also good. And all three of the products I just mentioned right now, they all double down as ADSs as well. So bang, 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 get two birds stoned at once. I was going to talk about that later, but hey, it just kind of slipped out. So it is what it is. But as I was talking about before, when I would basically take off the extender, man, it was extremely painful. However, I was making gains, so I would suffer it. But if I was to go back in time, I would probably pick up probably the Phallosan Forte or the PeniMaster Pro, and obviously because I dropped that same amount of money on a bunch of BS pills and a really crappy extender. So if I could go back in time, where I had less responsibilities, I would definitely go with one of those two. They are known for being basically the top two when it comes to comfort, ease of use, and all that good stuff. If you have a little less money, but you still want to basically get all the PE products that you need in one-stop shop, then boom, I would definitely go with the TotalManShop starter kit or the everything included kit that's got everything from clamps to you name it. That kit's got pretty much everything. And don't worry, I'll leave links below. And I mean, you got to ask yourself as well what your budget is, right? And at that time, man, I got sold on a lie and I spent a whole way too much money on some BS products that did not work. And going back to the comfort that I was talking about before when, talking about the extenders or the extender that I got from Bimax, it was painful, horrible to use, replaced it, got the VLC Tugger all day stretcher instead, just because I read that, it's better, ease of use, it was comfortable. And I got it, I rocked it, and it was freaking spectacular. It was a million times better. However, when it comes for length, I know I use my ADS more than anything. Just, like I said before, just it's more of an anti-turtling device for me. It's not, I kind of feel like I get more out of the hanging sessions that I do, right? So the hanging sessions for me are where I'm starting to make some gains, and I'm starting up with that once again because I feel like I'm not getting really that stretch from just an ADS all day. And believe you me, fast forward a couple of years, right, where I was pretty much doing nothing else but the ADS, and I wasn't really getting a whole lot. I think that year maybe I made like 0.3 inches in gains. Like I wasn't making a whole lot of gains, and the reason for that is that you got to stimulate it, with something a little bit more hardcore, and especially when you've already done, if you've already done a couple programs and that, you do got to hit it with some that's obviously more appropriate, right? And progressive overload, like I've talked about before, is the key in PE and in pretty much everything else, right? Which is also why I touched on the deconditioning breaks and why I took one just recently, right? So all that stuff plays into it, and that's pretty much it's pretty much my point of view on it as to the deciding factor whether you should go with an ADS or an extender. Ultimately, you got to ask yourself what your lifestyle really entails, and ultimately what your budget is too, man. Like you don't want to drop $500 on something you don't really want to use, right? So you got to make sure you spend your money appropriately, right? So that's where I stand on that. Now, going back to the models that I mentioned before that I wanted to touch on, and why I like those three quite a bit, right? Like I said before, Phallosan Forte, it doubles down as an all-day stretcher and an extender if you go with the plus model, right? So the plus model is basically like these two golden rods you got on the side. It can generate quite a bit of force as well, right? Like I've said before, it is not cheap, my friends. That one I think is over $400 or something. I think them and the PeniMaster Pro and the Phallosan Forte are both about $400, right? And it is known for being, the king of comfort. And like I said before, and one thing that I still find very impressive with the Phallosan Forte is the fact that you can sleep in it, right? You can sleep in the thing, right? It can generate all kinds of force while you're sleeping. So I think that is excellent. It's an excellent way to basically get anywhere from 6 to 8 hours of stretching time under, time under tension, just under the belt, boom, just like that. So it's definitely a fantastic model, and it doubles down for all you guys that are thinking of, hey, should I get an extender or an all-day stretcher? This one does both, right? So you can generate more force, obviously, when you are in the extender. So when you're chilling at home, it'll basically take care of that, right? And when you're out and about, just going about your day, you can rock the all-day stretcher, which will keep you long and strong, baby. And next up, we got the PeniMaster Pro. The PeniMaster Pro also has, that back design, same as the Phallosan Forte. It has been said, I've seen a couple reviews on, a kind of a versus onto which one is easier to take off and use. And the PeniMaster Pro seems to be easier to take off, right, and put back on, right? So if you're going for a bathroom break and you take an extra 30 seconds to, just chill out or do whatever it is that you're doing, and people are gonna kind of raise an eyebrow, like, hey man, why is that guy always taking so long? I thought he was just taking a piss, but it looks like this guy's taking a dump. Right. So if you're gonna be in public places and that, something to kind of note, the PeniMaster Pro is an easier, easier device to put on and take off, right? So just a heads up. And next up, but going back to the PeniMaster Pro, the PeniMaster Pro model actually has the weights that you can attach to it. And if I'm actually not mistaken here, it also has an extender accessory that you can add on to the device that you have. So you can double down, use it as an extender as well, right? Which is spectacular. You can use it as an extender when you're at home. And then when you're going about your day, again, you can use it as an all-day stretcher. So again, I think these two models are spectacular strictly for that reason. Both very expensive. However, you get an all-day stretcher and an extender at the same time, right? Going back to the TotalManShop, it's about $200 cheaper, which is quite nice if you ask me. And if you go with the all-day or the Total Man Everything kit, right? It comes with pretty much everything that you need to go from hanging to an all-day stretcher to an extender to a compression hanger to a vac hanger to the freaking anti-turtling sleeves to the clamps. Like, man, that kit is just ridiculous. And if I had known about it when I was, in my in my younger years, I would have just gone with that. Why? Because it's worth it. I truly believe it's worth it, and that's why I always talk about it, because it's a great kit to get if you're just starting off. One-stop shop, $300. So you're not going to break the bank with that. Not like my Wish stock. I bought Wish stock thinking it was a great idea. It went from $14 to $3. So that was awful, but that's a story for another day, right? Whereas with the Total Man Full Everything Kit, guys, gives you truly everything you need to get started in PE. It's an awesome, awesome, awesome setup, which is why I talk about it all the time, because it is money. It is awesome. So, if you're looking for a one-stop shop, the place to get everything that you need for your extender, all-day stretcher, it's a great way to go about it. Plus, you got different variations of the same device. So you can basically test out and see which one really works out best for you, right? Like, I've heard guys gain from back hanging. I've heard guys gain from compression hanging. I've heard guys say that, vac hanging is extremely uncomfortable and the sleeves tend to rip, versus other guys that say, hey, you know what, vac hanging is the best and I will never do a compression hanger again, versus guys that stick to the noose model, right? So it's ultimately up to you, up to your comfort, and we are all different, right? So you got to make sure that you get something that gives you options, and if you don't, make sure that it's worth the money you invest in it, right? Because I see this as an investment. You're investing in yourself, and obviously don't go for that cheap Alibaba stuff, because that stuff just sucks. And you'll probably get COVID from it. Well, hopefully not. But what I'm getting at is if you do want to get the best out of the products that exist, you are going to have to invest some money, right? So again, great option with the Total Man Shop full everything kit. Also, so again, like I mentioned before, you also got the gel to gain. You got the gel to gain all day stretcher, extremely comfort. It's the one that I had Daniel on talking about, and he designed it with this serious PE in mind. And his whole deal is making it so comfortable that you can sleep in the thing as well, right? So again, it's not something that's on the website, but it is something that I've discussed with him and something that, it's an option that does exist. So, the thing is comfortable, baby. And for that edition, just make sure you use the promo code MHS10, get 10% off, guys. Sponsor the show. And that being said, he designed it with the PE in mind, so it's comfortable. I've seen him wear it quite a bit. I've seen him use his hanging, and his hanging is pretty impressive, right? And he's one of the guys that swears by the vac hanging way, I guess, or the vac hanging method. So he's made incredible gains. And if you don't follow him, make sure you follow him on Instagram and Twitter. I believe his Twitter handle, I believe, is Jelk to Gain, as it is on the Instagram. So that's Daniel Gray, guys. Big shout out. Make sure you check him out. And again, going to the VLC Tugger, quick and easy to use. Again, if you are uncircumcised or circumcised, this one is not a good choice for you because you do not have the foreskin to cause the vacuum enclosure required for it. So just a heads up, guys, just a heads up. And other than that, those are pretty much the main models that I would go with. There's other options that do exist. There's other extenders, and there's lots of other extenders that exist as well. I mean, you could check out my page where I do talk about the different extenders that I mentioned and that I think are good, the top 5 extenders of 2021. And if you have not checked out the podcast, I did do a podcast episode solely on that, right? And that was solely extenders. So again, here we're talking more of a combination. And the reason why I went with these models is that they pretty much all double down so that you can use them for other things like hanging or all day stretchers and all day stretchers and extenders, right? So at least that way you can save a little bit of money and just, one-stop shop, get all the stuff you need, right? So I hope that answers your questions. And again, guys, if you have any questions, concerns, or comments, make sure you hit me up. Check me out on Instagram. That's pretty much where I'm most active, and that's where I get the most DMs as well. So again, just hit me up there. Also, big shout out to a friend of mine who just recently broke the 7.5-inch mark. Big ups, that's honestly, guys, it's what really gives me the motivation to just do this and why it makes me happy, man. Like just seeing people that don't have to get scammed or think that PE is impossible. So again, big shout out. And I'm always proud to see that, guys. So again, just keep hitting me up. Let me know. And obviously, for the guys that know me on WhatsApp and have me on WhatsApp, man, make sure you hit me up there too. And again, I'm glad to see that you guys are gaining. So you have no idea how happy it makes me. I'm like, yo, man, it's possible. See, I told you, man. I told you. You just got to try this out. You got to mix it up with a couple different things. So very happy to see that. And I'm proud. I'm extremely proud of the guys that are doing it and are consistent, man, because the biggest killer in PE as it is in the gym or pretty much everything in life is just the lack of consistency that a lot of guys, they start off, they're disciplined for about a month or two, and then they just fall off. And it sucks because it's like, bro, you could have made so much more. So when I see a guy that's been doing it for about 6 months, tweaks his program and makes gains, dude, oh man, that for me is extremely exciting. So just super happy to see that. And again, hit me up. Let me know what you guys need. And if you got questions or you want to show me the gains you guys are making, whatever the case may be, guys, I'm super, super eager to learn more from you guys and to just continue down this journey. So again, I'm very, very happy and very proud. You know who you are. All right, brothers. Until the next episode, stay healthy.